No matter what seems to be going on with the big screen side of things, there's been no shortage of Batman on the small screen. Whether it be the iconic DCAU series, the movies that spawned from that universe, as well as the DCAMU and the short-lived Tomorrowverse. And on top of that, there's been a bunch of really weird Batman anime films sprinkled in through there as well. After recently watching Batman the Caped Crusader, I wanted to take a time to go back and look at some of the Batman series and rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. So this is going to leave out all the other shows like Justice League and Ensemble Cast and only focus on shows starring Batman. Let's get into this Batman ranking, and before we do, I would like to know your list down in the comments. Very much so a Saturday morning cartoon. They did their best to capture the charm and wit of the Adam West series that was running on TV that was a live action version, but it didn't quite have that same feel. The animation was very much so behind for what they wanted to do. It was really stiff, a little wonky, and overall the series was very chaotic. Going back to watch these is kind of a chore if you're actually going to sit through and watch them, but at best it serves as some good passable TV to have on in the background while you do some laundry or something. Next up at number 8, we're going to have to go The New Adventures of Batman, not to be mistaken for TNBA from the 90s, but from 77. So this one was actually voiced by Adam West, as well as the Robin from the live action series as well. So they were able to capture a little bit more of that charm that made people like the live action version of Batman and Robin. This was an ensemble cast of the Bat family, but it predominantly focused on Batman and Robin. But there was Batgirl and yes, Batmite. It was still very much so a cheesy, wonky, campy Saturday morning cartoon, but they did a little bit better with the animation. It didn't look quite as clunky, and dare I say, some moments in the series actually looked really good. They took a lot of the animation from the old series and just kind of recreated it for this one, but the bat suit and everything else just looked and felt a lot better, and it was definitely a lot funnier, and the stories got a little cleaner. It's definitely still a very silly take on the character, but overall it was pretty fun to watch. Next up at number 7, I'm gonna have to go 2013's Beware the Batman. So this is one of the first CGI Batman shows, and oddly enough, it kind of has the same legacy for Batman animation as that weird 2003 CGI Spider-Man show has for Spider-Man animation. It was a good attempt. There was a lot of great things in here. I was really intrigued by the fact that they went with some different characters outside of the normal Penguin, Joker, Two-Face, and Catwoman. They ended up going with characters like Magpie, Anarchy, Mr. Toad, and Professor Pig. I thought that was pretty cool because we never really see those types of characters on screen. With that being said, I was in college when this came out, living in a dorm room. I definitely didn't have cable to watch Cartoon Network, so I didn't end up watching this show until years and years later. The show actually went through a lot of hell, so it started out on Cartoon Network. It ran for like 10 or 11 episodes on Cartoon Network, and then it was canceled and cut and eventually sent to Toonami. The first half of this show is extremely slow, and when I started to watch it, I almost gave up on it immediately, but I said, you know what, it's only one season, I'll finish it out, and it actually started to pick up midway through. He actually started to feel like Batman and Bruce Wayne. I think the show was just okay, but honestly, not much to write home about in my opinion. A lot of people treat the new Batman Adventures as if it's just a final season to BTAS, but that's not really true. A lot of characters overall were really drastically changed, and not just their appearance. But the appearance, view, and feel of the show definitely changed as well. The main reason for that being they wanted to be more in line with the Superman animated series, where the colors popped a little bit more, the animation style was a lot more angled at the shoulders and things of that nature. They made some characters more menacing, some characters more cartoonish, and took a lot of liberties from the original show. My favorite part of this series was definitely the Robin going on to Nightwing aspect of it. It showed a lot of growth in Dick Grayson's Robin, and he was just tired of what Batman was putting him and Batgirl through, and rightfully so. See, this version of Batman became a lot more stoic and one-dimensional, falling deeper and deeper into that Batman being the real character and Bruce Wayne being the facade. And I see that angle being used a lot, even in the most recent Batman Caped Crusader. If you like that, they did that pretty well here. The fight scenes were more bombastic, the action was definitely more action-packed in here, but for me, it lost a lot of what I loved about BTAS, which was those really deep character studies. We had a few of them here and there, but not very many. They mainly focused on the dynamics of the people in the Bat family. Speaking of, this is where that dynamic that everyone hates kind of started to bubble up here.
But spring break will be coming up soon, and I'll be back in Gotham for 2 whole weeks. Won't that be nice?
Yeah, no, when Bruce Timm started playing with the idea that Batman should clap Barbara Gordon's cheeks. Why, Bruce Timm? I'm going to ask you this every time I speak about it. Why? Why did you subject me to this? I don't care if it's not canon. I don't care. You still did it, and it's still in the DCAU, and I hate it. Anyways, I like this series, don't get me wrong. It has some cool standout episodes. I do love the animation and action, but it just didn't stick with me like BTAS did. Number 5. Batman Caped Crusader. I liked a lot about this show. I disliked some things about the show. I'm confused about some things about this show. But overall, I definitely liked more than I didn't. I think they took some really big swings that paid off, and some that didn't. Season 1, I did like the underlying story of Harvey Dent slowly becoming Two-Face in the background. I thought they bit off a little bit more than they can chew while having like 3 or 4 storylines simultaneously going on while trying to tell that story. I think it would have made the most sense to pop off with Oswalda and just have her be the main villain of the series. They introduced her in this really big grandiose concept, her having this nuke that she can pretty much blow up any part of Gotham City with, and then they just snapped and that storyline was just over for the rest of the series. Even though they made it seem like she had so many connections in the GCPD and with the Gotham Underground as a whole, I thought that was a really big missed opportunity with the character. It could have made something that was a real big drastic change that will be drawing for a lot of people in the audience kind of feel good about it, but now it just kind of makes it feel like they wanted to say, hey, look, we're doing something different. Although I think the tonal shift was kind of weird in the second half of the season where they started playing with the mystical elements, I did enjoy those episodes in isolation. I just don't think that it meshed very well with the overall story. We introduced the Joker at the end. There's some other villains I'm expecting to see pop up in this as well, so I'm interested to see what they do. Number 4, Batman the Brave and the Bold. So I was like a freshman in high school when this came out, I believe, going into high school, something like that. I wasn't super into this show when I was young, I'm going to be honest. I was doing more watching of the show that came previous, the Batman, as well as Batman the Animated Series. But I did like this. It was a nice, lighter take on the character that definitely was more in tune with that golden age version of him versus the darker, broodier, edgy version of the 90s. You can take the source material seriously while still adding in some comedic elements, because there is a lot of comedic gold to be had with the character of Batman if you do it right. And overall, I think this show did that. On top of that, I really love the cameos in this show, whether it be Green Arrow, Aquaman, Blue Beetle, and so many more. They kind of took the Smallville approach with this, keeping it a Batman-centric show, but introducing other characters to push certain storylines along. Nothing really overtly bad to say for this show. It was just honestly one that was more aimed at kids, but I still enjoyed it. Some of you have already seen my video on my channel about Batman from 04. I really love this iteration of the character. It was the first time in quite a while that we got a younger Bruce Wayne. All of the characters were redesigned. They took the characters that we have been used to seeing for years and years be done fairly similar and just flip them all on their head. I really love the Clayface. I love the Joker, the Penguin. Pretty much all of the villains from this show were really dope. Over the course of 5 seasons, it was really cool to see this young, immature, still kind of hurting Bruce Wayne start to slowly mature and become a father figure to the new Robin. Not a perfect show by any means. It has its ups and downs like anyone else did. It's a really solid series, and if you missed out on this, or if you were turned off by it because it didn't look like BTAS or feel like it, I think you should give this one a shot. Number 2, my boy, Terry McGinnis. Now, as time went on, I'm going to be honest, I don't know how I feel about the reveal in Justice League Unlimited that Terry is actually Bruce Wayne's son. Kind of. It's a really cool gasp moment, but to be honest, I feel like it kind of took away from what I loved about Batman Beyond the series itself. It really gave Bruce Wayne this redemption arc of kind of doing right by Terry in a way that he didn't get to do for the Robins that came before. They really focused on the idea of Batman being a mantle that needs to be passed down, and they did a lot of diving into the psyche of Bruce Wayne and him just being comfortable aging. And this has by far one of the best opening scenes to an animated TV show ever, especially in terms of Batman. Looking back at it, the futuristic lingo, or what they thought was futuristic back in the day, is a little cringy at times, but overall the show still holds up and I really love it. Great rewatch for this show last year as well. What can I say about Batman the Animated Series that hasn't already been said by me and hundreds of other YouTubers? I really love how they dove into the psyche of all the villains, and most importantly, how the psyche of those villains intertwined with the psyche of Bruce Wayne and Batman. It was almost as if every single villain introduced represented a different thing Batman was struggling with, and I really enjoyed that aspect. A lot of the characters from Batman the Animated Series go down as my definitive versions of what I go to, outside of maybe a few. There's not really much bad to say about this series. The only thing that I can think of looking back, when I did my rewatch 2 years ago, I will say the show was definitely a little bit slower than what I remember from being a kid. So from that aspect, I could definitely see why someone might enjoy TNBA over BTAS because of that aspect. There would be episodes at a time where there wasn't really much large action happening on the screen. With that being said, that goes to show how good the writing was on this series, man. They didn't spend any time talking down to the audience because it was a kid's show. They tackled a bunch of heavy topics that I did not expect a kid's show to tackle. And of course, without Batman the Animated Series, we don't get Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, and pretty much any other of the DCAU shows. So we gotta make sure to put the respect on BTAS that it deserves. But I would love to know your list of the Batman Animated Series down in the comments. It's your boy Eddie Knight, and until next time.